concerned that going forward, individuals who advocate peaceful assembly, and that's all that Tamara did, was talk about peaceful assembly and encourage people to come to Ottawa to assemble peacefully and lawfully. That's all she did. And if that becomes, and as at this point, it remains criminal, it's been found to be the offense of mischief, if that's allowed to stand, then I'm very concerned about the future of freedom of expression in this country.
Ezra Levant here. I'm standing outside the Ottawa court. I'm going to turn around here. A huge crowd outside, a lot of journalists. Look at the wall of TV cameras. It's tough these days to understand who is with the mainstream media and who is the alternative media. One thing for sure, I don't know if you can see it, but you can't really see it through the windows there. There are at least 7 police right inside the vestibule and another 7 police downstairs outside the courtroom, plus 2 police in the courtroom. My math tells me that's 16 different cops. What are they expecting will happen? One of the things the judge said repeatedly in her sentencing was that Tamara Lich and Chris Barber were completely nonviolent and encouraged others to be nonviolent too. And yeah, let me catch you up what's happening now. We're right outside the courthouse, minutes after Justice Heather Perkins McVeigh issued her sentences in the cases of trucker leaders Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. The prosecution had asked for astonishing sentences, the kind of sentences that murderers would get. 8 years for Barber and 7 years for Lich. The judge did not do that. She said that there was no basis for that, and she gently chided Doug Ford's prosecutors. And remember that the prosecutors who have hounded Tamara Lich and Chris Barber for 3.5 years, they work for Doug Ford. They don't work for Mark Carney or Justin Trudeau. They'll let Ford off the hook. Anyways, today in the sentencing, neither of the 2 accused were given a custodial sentence. In plain English,
what do you make of these sentences?
Well, for my point's comment, he respects the judge's decision, is not appealable in terms of the sentence.
They are conditional sentences. He gets house arrest.
Yes, it is.
And in terms of his reaction in court, does he feel any regret in terms of what has happened, in terms of his role in the Freedom Project?
I'll let him speak to that when he's due and ready to do that.
Are you surprised by the verdict sentence today, Ms. Negus?
No, I'm not. It was expected to be in the realm of sentences, the sentences that were provided to other members or leaders, convoys, so it was expected.
Madame Magas, est-ce que vous êtes satisfaite de ces 18 mois d'emprisonnement avec ceci?
C'est une sentence qui est raisonnable selon nous et puis qui Montclair respecte la décision du juge à cet effet-là.
Wherever you are. Don't touch me.
Can you tell me what kind of message this may send to other individuals who may want to protest, given if it's another protest against government overreach? We see something going on in the ostrich farm right now. What message does the court send in terms of other mass protests?
I think the message from the judge was really clear that my client and Ms. Lich had the best intention when they came to Ottawa. It was a lawful protest. She found that it turned into unlawful because of the blockage of the streets, and that's what the message is, like protests, but don't block the street. Don't interfere with other people's enjoyment of their property is the clear message. I think the judge wanted to make sure in her decision today and even in her decision on conviction that protest is allowed. That's not the issue. It's the manner of the protest. Do
you think there's a double standard with how Hamas protesters are really unmolested by police? Yeah. None of them are being jailed. There's no 3-year prosecutions like this for mischief, whereas trucker protesters have been jailed and the enormous amount of resources thrown at them.
It's hard for me to comment on another protest that I don't know the facts of each of the protests. So it's I can't comment on that, unfortunately. I can tell you that this trial took very long to succeed or complete, but I can't comment on the other ones.
Considérez-vous que le juge a assez pris en considération le fait que vous collaborez avec la police?
Oui, je pense que le juge a fait un point
There you
de
go.
dire
That
que
is the
la
lawyer,
collaboration
Chris
était
Barber, having a bit of a scrum. One of the questions, I think it was CTV who asked it, was, is there any lesson here for the ostrich farm? Isn't that interesting? That's what's on their mind. I'm just keeping my eye peeled about
listen, you were here first.
what's
Yes,
going
we were
on.
here
It's a
first.
little bit
I
of
was here at 8 in
madness
the
here.
morning. You weren't here.
I didn't realize that scrum was happening, but I tried to jump in front of it. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled
You're not
for when Lawrence Greenspan comes out. A little bit of hollering between
You're not entitled
the
to any.
citizen
No,
journalists
you're not. You're not entitled
and
to
the regime journalists.
No, you're not. You don't get to
Let me get back to the story at hand. The headline news, the big news right now, is that Chris Barber and Tamara Lich have been sentenced for their role in the trucker convoy. Neither of them has been sent to jail, but both of them have received enormously long house arrest. In both cases, 18 months of house arrest, or 18 months conditional sentence, excuse me, of which 12 months is house arrest, reduced somewhat in the case of Tamara Lich because she's already spent the legal equivalent of 74 days in jail, so 15 and a half months of house arrest, during which time they are not allowed to leave other than for medical emergencies, 5 hours a week for shopping, legal, medical, and dental appointments, and other things that they negotiate with their supervisors. In the case of Chris Barber, he's a trucker, a long-distance trucker, so obviously his employment would count as an exception to that. But I have not heard of such a strict house arrest. I'm trying to think of a peaceful political protest that yielded such a brutal sentence. And you could compare it to Omar Khadr, the Al-Qaeda terrorist, who didn't have any of these conditions. In fact, he was given $10.5 million of taxpayer money. He was given the red carpet. He had he was the golden boy of Justin Trudeau. I asked Ms. Magus, that's the lawyer for Chris Barber, if there's an evident double standard between how these truckers are being treated and how the Hamas protesters are being treated. I don't know of any Hamas protesters who've been jailed for months. I don't know any of them who have been prosecuted with the obsession that Doug Ford has prosecuted Tamara Lich, or the Alberta government has prosecuted the Coots protesters. Her answer was fair enough, but I think it was a tiny bit of a cop-out. She said, well, I'm just not familiar with those other protests. I don't know the facts. I suppose that's a proper lawyer's answer, but it's pretty easy to say. There's a two-tier standard for protests in Canada. All right, I'm going to extend. I'm sort of in the thick of it. I hope you don't mind. I've tried to film the scrum. It's a little bit hard when I'm using a selfie stick. As you can see, there's a ton of folks here. Watch this video. And there's so many cameras. Some of them are from more official-looking sources. Many of them are citizen journalists like myself. I'm going to keep my camera rolling because I do expect Lawrence Greenspan, the lawyer for Tamara Lich, to come out, and I'll try and put some questions to him. He's very knowledgeable. He's a very senior lawyer, and I know that even the regime media defer to him because he's very professorial. He teaches when he answers questions, and I'm pleased to say that we have crowdfunded his legal fees. And he has had two junior lawyers. He's been working on this case for 2 years, and I know from my previous conversations with him and Tamara Lich that Tamara Lich intends to appeal her convictions. So I don't know if they're going to appeal the sentence as well. When you appeal the conviction, and if you were successful, then there would be no need for any sentence at all, of course, if you found not guilty. Anyways, I'm just going to turn the camera around a little bit so you can see there are some protest signs here, and you can see inside there are a lot of cops, which is a bit rich. I think the Ottawa Police Service has some psychological trauma from the truckers, that they're literally sending 16 cops, and those are just the ones that I counted. I think they haven't got over it. I think the Ottawa Police were a disgrace in the country, and that's not just my opinion. According to the Federal Court of Canada, the invocation of the Emergencies Act and the conduct of police in its aftermath, including the arbitrary search and seizure and shutting down of bank accounts of anyone who was there, including the spouses. A lot of people, of course, share a bank account with their spouse. And imagine you're a mom at a grocery store and suddenly none of your credit cards work because your husband was at a protest and some liberal politician said, hey, shut down this guy's bank account, he's a trucker. Absolutely abusive. The Federal Court of Canada itself found that to be illegal and unconstitutional. I think the Ottawa Police Service has some explaining to do, but they don't really ever explain now, do they? So anyways, I'm out here with this huge crowd. I would say it's fair to say that in addition to the regime media, there's dozens of independent media. Got a lot of people who are just plain old Tamara Lich and Chris Barber supporters. I think that if you were to ask me where are Tamara Lich and Chris Barber right now, I think they're actually doing paperwork with what they call the supervisor. I think that may be a newfangled way of saying parole or probation officer. So they're doing the paperwork, and one of the things the judge said is that responsibility for enforcing this house arrest will be shifted to their respective homes. Oh, I see Lawrence Greenspan is on his way out. He's the lawyer for Tamara Lich. And we'll do our best to let you know.
Back it up, guys! Come on, back it up!
Rolling.
You guys gonna back it up. That means all of
Get
it.
out the door.
Mr. Lawrence Greenspan here. Mr. Greenspan, how many people do you think the Freedom Convoy positively impacted?
Well, in our submissions, I said thousands, if not tens of thousands. But we received letters of support from hundreds of people. We've received messages. Tamara has received messages. So this was one of those rare cases where I was able to say to the judge, there was some very positive things that happened as a result of this, what was found to be an offense. And the positive is that there are a lot of people who were inspired by Tamara's example, a lot of people who were lifted up and given hope by what she did.
Are you satisfied with the verdict or the sentencing today, sir?
Yes, the main objective was to make sure she didn't spend one more day in jail, and that was achieved. So yes, in that sense, we are still very seriously considering an appeal of the conviction.
Need a little bit of an
But as far as the sentence goes, we're pleased that she is not going to be spending any more time in jail.
Do you think there's been a double standard with how the truckers have been treated with jailing, prosecution, enormous resources compared to the pro-Hamas protests that block streets in Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, and elsewhere? Is there a double standard on the streets?
I think that this case on its own demonstrates the conflict between freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, and as contrasted with some of the other protests that you're referring to, the pro-Palestinian protests. There's definitely a different way that those are being treated as opposed to the way that this peaceful assembly and freedom of expression was treated in this one.
Lawrence, was a balance struck by the judge in this case in terms of freedom of expression, in terms of the right to protest?
No, there was none. And in Canada, constitutionally protected freedom of speech, which encourages peaceful assembly, must prevail over the rights of property owners, the enjoyment of property. It's not an equal balance, and that's the primary basis that we're considering for an appeal of conviction.
What do you think the post effects will be? I mean, even if you might be happy with the results as of now, where do you think this takes the feeling of free speech going forward? The process, of course, the pre-trial custody.
I'm concerned that going forward, individuals who advocate peaceful assembly, and that's all that Tamara did was talk about peaceful assembly and encourage people to come to Ottawa to assemble peacefully and lawfully. That's all she did. And if that becomes, and as at this point, it remains criminal, it's been found to be the offense of mischief, if that's allowed to stand, then I'm very concerned about the future of freedom of expression in this country.
Lawrence, we're appealing Ms. Lich's conviction.
We're seriously considering an appeal of the conviction for mischief.
What about the impact on the people of orders? The judge also knows significant impact there on residents.
There is definitely, and that was something that we were prepared to admit right at the beginning of the trial, that there was an impact on the people and businesses in the core of the city of Ottawa. Freedom of expression and peaceful assembly do not come without some price. And in a contest between the two, peaceful assembly, freedom of expression that encourages that, should win every time.
Mr. Greenspan?
Nowhere in the Constitution are the property rights or the enjoyment of property to be found. Freedom of expression, peaceful assembly are fundamental freedoms that are supposed to be protected by the Charter.
Mr. Greenspan, were you surprised by the sentence today? The duration?
Given the reign, absolute discharge to 7 years, there's really nothing that could surprise me. What surprised me was that in 45 years of doing this work, I've never been this far apart from the Crown in terms of a sentencing position. The judge made comments about the Crown's sentencing position, and I'll leave you to that.
Has Ms. Lich ever expressed any type of remorse for her role in this, even though she did not advocate for violence, but it resulted in $65 million of police costs?
You heard the portion of the letter that she wrote, and she recognized, as did Mr. Barber, that there were many people in the downtown core and businesses that were affected by the Freedom Convoy. She doesn't deny that. The question of it then, was there remorse for what she did? No. She pled not guilty. She's been found guilty of mischief. And we're seriously looking at appealing that.
Do you think Tamara actually saved
Judy, go down a little.
She may have. She may have saved lives by her advocacy. Thank you. She may have. One thing we know is that there were many people that were inspired by her example, but that said in how she did it. There were lives that were changed as a result of her standing up on behalf of many thousands of perhaps even tens of thousands of people. So her lives saved, I don't know, but may well have been. May well have been.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of you.
You want to get out the face flying here, Steve? You're on my court, dude. No, I know it doesn't.
Sur les forfaits historiques, tu peux aider à revoir un appel. Mais quand même.
Oui, le juge avait pris
De coopération avec la police. Elle avait pris ça en considération.
Do you have anything more to do with James Bowder's representation?
No. Finished with him? I'm done with James Brown.
Would you like to reach many different examples of different trials, of different judgments for different courts of Do you think that was curious oversight?
No, I think she canvassed all of the as many of the protest cases that we're familiar with. The Antifa protests generally involve violence,
yes,
and damage to property. So there would have been no point in her, mentioning those and then saying, but they don't apply in this case.
He might be all the way back then. They mentioned something I was misreaching on remorse. What did you say to her?
What I said is no, she has not indicated to the court that she's remorseful for what she did.
Well, I'm going to take a few steps away from this from Lawrence Greenspan, certainly the man of the hour outside the courthouse here. What I learned from his remarks is something he said before, is that in our Canadian Constitution, property rights do not trump freedom of speech. Now, we love both property rights and freedom of speech, but he does have a point. The Charter of Rights mentions freedom of speech. It does not mention property rights. And in a protest situation like the trucker convoy, don't be surprised if some dainty people are put out by some noisy protests. The second thing, which he said clearly, is that they have not yet officially decided whether to appeal the conviction, but they're seriously considering it. I had understood previously that they were going to appeal, if that's the case, we'll certainly crowdfund it through the Democracy Fund. It's a little bit crowded there, and I managed to sort of get beyond hearing range, but it shows you the tremendous interest in this case. I'm going to try and film just a little bit more.
You know, some question out there that things happen in Nicholson. If there's a case, we have to reach first here and
I'm not sure that all.
I saw that. You made that very public.
where they were directed to go should have been an issue. And it has been clarified that this needing trucks to reduce the footprint was something that was stopped not by the Freedom Convoy organizers, but rather stopped by the chief. We're not doing as badly as there are south of the border, but the decision to convict Tamara Lich for mischief for what she did in the name of peaceful assembly and freedom of expression is something that we're looking at very seriously, very challenging further on.
Mr. Greenspan, there's been a lot of misunderstandings and misinformation about this entire process. If there's one thing you can communicate to the people of Canada that may have not been properly communicated, maybe lost in the weeds, what would that be?
It's this message. It's that freedom of expression has to mean something when it is encouraging peaceful assembly, and those two things are both constitutionally protected fundamental freedoms. That has to mean something, and it has to mean, unfortunately for some, that it prevails over the right to enjoyment of property, which is nowhere to be found in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Good job, Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Greenspan.
Very much. Let us create peace and any light and love together.
Well, there he is, Lawrence
Mr.
Greenspan, the man of the day,
Mr. Greenspan.
defending Tamara Lich. He says that he was successful in his main goal, which was to make sure Tamara Lich did not spend one more day in jail. And he certainly has achieved that. I do not like the house arrest conditions, although if there are exceptions to go shopping for medical, legal, dental reasons, and if there's work exceptions, well, you know, someone's work can keep them busy all the time out and around the country. Mine certainly does. Who knows? Maybe Rebel News will have to make a job offer to Tamara Lich for a variety of reasons. That's my report from outside the courthouse here. A little bit of mayhem. Rebel News has been at the heart of this story since the very beginning. As you know, we were live streaming the trucker convoy when the rest of the regime media said they were too scared to go down to the truckers. They were worried they'd be hurt. We sent our people there, live streamed for 23 days straight, helped tell the story. And when Tamara Lich was arrested, we helped crowdfund her through the Democracy Fund, bring her to this day. If, in fact, Tamara Lich decides to appeal, we will be there through the Democracy Fund to crowdfund the cost of that as well. For Rebel News, on the steps of the Ottawa courthouse, amongst a mob of regime journalists, citizen journalists, independent journalists, and supporters of Tamara Lich, this is Ezra Levant for Rebel News.